How you doing, folks? I got a really neat guy in front of me. His name's Mark Conrad. He's the curator of the Miami Valley Military History Museum. That's this big pink building you see right here behind him. And he wants to tell you a little bit about what today's special event is all about. Mark?
Right, today's Sunday, September 18th, and we're commemorating POW MIA Day, a day set aside to remember those who have endured the trials and tribulations of being prisoners, and for those of us, our comrades that are still missing in action and unaccounted for. Since World War II, we still have over 83,000 men and women still unaccounted for. Part of the way that we want to honor them today, we have a display of flags and battlefield crosses. We have World War II POW Albert Brown, who fought with the 28th Infantry Division, was captured in 1945. He'll be with us here shortly, along with Jack Perry, who was 15 years old when he was captured in Korea. We're also going to be joined by Carolyn Sargent. Her uncle, Lieutenant Don Siegworth, is missing in action off the coast of Vietnam. And we also have Alex Villalba, who works at the base Life Sciences Laboratory. And Alex's job is, as a forensic investigator, he takes pieces of equipment that were recovered from crash sites and uses those to determine the type of plane, which plane it was, and then of course what crew was associated with it. So those are the activities we have going on today, and we hope you come out and join us.
And if you don't make it out this year, we will probably do the same thing again next year, or something similar, so you can make it out next year for sure.
We will.
Thank you, folks.
Hi, my name is Catherine Beers. We're here at the Miami Valley Military History Museum to mark POW MIA Day. And I'd like to introduce you to Sergeant First Class Alex Villalba, and he will tell you about it.
We have a representative display of various symbols that commemorate and honor our fallen service members, specifically those who were prisoners of war and missing in action from the past conflicts up to the beginning of the 20th century, specifically World War I. At the head of the overall display, we have the traditional battlefield cross. This is a type of cross that was done many years ago. When a casualty fell on the battlefield, often there was no time in which to transport them to the rear to properly intern them. So quite often, they were interred or buried on the spot that they fell. Typically, the battlefield cross consists of the fallen service member's helmet, his weapon, which is secured into the ground with his bayonet. Often, if there were any identification, media, or tags, are draped around the handle, and then finally his boots. This symbol has come to serve as the typical or the historical representation of a fallen service member. So today we use this to honor our service members who were prisoners of war or who were unaccounted for, otherwise known as missing in action. Behind the battlefield cross we have over 83 American flags, and each flag represents 1,000 American service members who did not return home from war because they went missing in action. So over 83 flags symbolize over 83,000 Americans going back to World War II that still remain unaccounted for and have yet to return home to our nation's shores. So all the flags are in honor of them. Finally, at the rear, we have a more traditional cross, which symbolizes again all the major conflicts going back to World War I. They are simple wooden crosses, but they are topped with the respective headgear of all major conflicts, beginning here with World War I, the old-style M1917 combat helmet, and then you go to World War II with the very traditional, very well-known M1 combat helmet. Here with the burlap cover symbolizes Korea, also used the M1 helmet. To the right, we have the boonie hat, which symbolizes the fallen from Vietnam. Slightly further out, we see the distinctive camouflage pattern of Desert Storm and the Kevlar helmet that was used in that conflict. Finally, on the far right, you have traditional and the current Army advanced combat helmet, which symbolizes the fallen from the global war on terror. And the battlefield cross also is current to recognize all service members, including those that have fallen in the last 15 years in the global war on terror. This is the equipment and the headgear of a modern Marine combat infantry. So as a collective whole, the entire display is built and is erected to honor our fallen, specifically our former prisoners of war, and especially our fallen soldiers who remain unaccounted for, those who are missing in action.
How you doing, folks? This is Rex, and we're out here at the Miami Valley Military History Museum. We got a bunch of guys here in front of me that are pretty awesome guys. Alex in the middle you've already seen. To his right or my left is Albert. Albert was a prisoner of war in World War II. And the gentleman on the right, his name is Rich. And his dad was a prisoner of war in Korea, sir?
World War II.
World War II. Okay. So, Alex in the middle is going to ask him some questions there to each one, and then we're just going to record them and enjoy the scenario. So, Alex, you can take it away.
All right, gentlemen, welcome. We'll just ask each of you general questions about your experience as a POW, and then your understanding of your father's experience when he was taken prisoner as well. So, both men were captured in the ETO. Albert, you said you were captured on what date?
February 26, 45.
February 26th of 1945, and you were with I Company,
Regiment 109, 28th Division.
20th Division,
Pennsylvania National Guard.
okay, National Guard, got it, okay. The Bloody Bucket, as we
Bloody
said.
Bucket.
That's it. Proud unit.
Yep.
Proud
Right.
unit. Excellent. And Mr. Rich, you told me your dad was with the chemical outfit?
Yeah, 87th Chemical Mortar Battalion.
Okay.
He was attached, I guess he was in a 4th Army Division, but he was attached to whoever needed mortar support at the time.
Got it. And your dad's date of capture was when?
December 28th, 1944.
44. Was he captured around the time of the Battle of the Bulge?
Yes, shortly after. Sadso, Belgium.
In Belgium. Okay, excellent. Albert, we'll start off with you. You said you were just a standard rifle carrying infantryman,
Yes.
and you carried the M1 Garand.
Right.
Okay. So you said that your unit went into the line in September of 44?
Right, that's right.
Got it.
After D-Day.
After D-Day. So from September to February, you had already seen a lot of action
Yeah.
up to then.
A lot of mortars and a lot of A8s.
Yep. Okay. Did you guys also, were you guys in the Hurtgen Forest during the Battle of the Bulge?
Yeah, that's where we got hit at.
You got hit.
Hurtgen Forest.
Tell us how you got hit.
How about us start back in September
Sure.
when I went and hit the front line. In October I got hit, my left arm was a A8 tree burst. Like I broke my arm, but I kept going. When the skin broke, so I kept on going. Then November 6th, they said that war would be over that day, November 44. I got hit in the right leg and back from a mortar. The guy about 4 feet from me, hit by his shoulder. Tore up his shoulder and his face. But automatically it came right away. And I stood up, I wasn't going to be able to walk very good. So I had a hobble. I looked down there about a block away. The guy, some army guy, has come down there and got down there and said, go get in that truck. The guy already got hit. Whole truckload. So about half an hour while they took to the Paris hospital, removed the shrapnel from me and whatever took care of the other guys. Then the next morning they loaded up an airplane full of guys, headed over to England, a town of Yeovil, not too far from, well, I'd say it's southeast of London. And see, November got hit, then January 15th, they came in walking good. So you want to go back, so you're going back to the front. You say you want to go to the same outfit, 28th? I said, yeah. Well, they sent to Rosie's Mountains down towards Christmas. And we was there about a month, I suppose. And took the town of Comar, captured some prisoners. I think they've been, Army had been through there before. I think it's a cleanup thing. We had one tank with us that time. And I think this guy's been drinking a little bit, Sargent. And he's under the tank barrel. And they fired a shot into a building and they like to throw his shirt off his back from concussion.
Can I interrupt for a second? No.
Folks, we have another really neat lady. Her name's Carolyn Sargent. And she's going to tell you here about her uncle. And what war was he in, ma'am?
Vietnam.
Vietnam. She's going to talk about that issue as soon as Al gets done with his dissertation here. So, thanks, Al, for being patient. Go ahead.
From the hospital, went to Rosie's Mountain, took the town of Comar. We was there about a month. Then went up to help the guy in the Battle of Bald. We're going to take a town to Sliden, Germany. Well, 5 of us are head of the whole company, and the Germans are behind they lay up logs and a place to shoot out of. They heard it coming, they opened up rifle fire, small arms fire, and a buddy from Illinois, they missed his head and hit his butt, so he had to walk 74 miles to prison camp with that condition. They had iodine and paper bandages for him. And the guy that got hit the chest, why we had to take him to town. So I never got hit, and one guy from Michigan, he never got hit, but just 2 of them got hit out of the 5. Other guy, he jumped behind a tree. So he went back to the company, I guess. Let's see. Now I got, see where I'm going here.
Go ahead, take your time.
After that, we were prisoners. They interviewed us as prisoners. Some German high command guy or whatever heard my name. Brown ways looked like German, maybe part German, when it was while he was fighting the people. So after that, we took off to a prison camp, Lindbergh prison camp, and walked 74 miles. They gave us a little bit to eat on the way. Wasn't anything pie or anything. It was some kind of I think it's called black bread or something like that. Didn't have much to eat, a little bit of water. So we got to prison camp. I don't know exactly how long. I was prisoner 31 days, but part of it was walking. And we got to prison camp. One of the guys who was captured with, he was next to me. And we had a building with like a open, like a implement building, and straw on the floor. We got a lot of bugs from a straw, I guess, or whatever. Graybacks and whatever, and lice, different kind. Gotta find out where I'm going here.
That's okay.
And we worked on the railroad a couple of days, tapping ties. Then, like in the morning and in the afternoon, our planes come over and bomb again what we was working on. And our U.S. force is getting pretty close, so they put us, 500 of us in boxcars, and we got about a mile down the road, and here comes our P-47s and the straight 50 calibers. And It's estimated the killer wounded 50 people out of 500. And somebody, they locked us up in the boxcars, and, well, not locked us up, they wired us in and only left in the boxcars. So they went out in the field and formed POW in the plane, tilted its wings and took off. Making chills up your back. So after that, we was walking. Walking towards Berlin, I always say. And we probably walked a day or so, and we run into the 7th Armored Division. They liberated us. And after we were liberated, why, they had a prison camp set up over by where D-Day took place. All POWs prison camps, see. Well, just tent city about what it amounted to. So they interviewed us. Then in front of the ship, we was on our way home. And after I got home, I was home 60 days, and they sent us to Miami Beach, Florida for recuperation and assignment. They put me in a hospital while I was down there at Miami Beach. I don't know what, I think a bowel problem or something. I was there from July to September 5th, and I said, well, they sent me close to home. They sent me to Camp Adair, Oregon. That's a long way out. It took 6 days to get out there. And while I was there, I issued clothing, a bunch of us guys, issuing clothes to the young guys for occupation in Japan. So I was there from September to November. Then they sent me to Sacramento for a discharge, and then I was on my way home. I got home for Thanksgiving of 45. I think that's right. That's about it.
What was your question again, Alex?
Mr. Albert, what date did the U.S. forces come liberate the camp you were in? Was that in April or May of 45 that you guys?
Chapter 28th March, they liberated us.
28th of March, okay. So you were in German custody for a little over a month?
Yeah, that's what, not true.
From February to March?
Yeah.
God, how much weight did you lose?
I don't think I lost any. I was in pretty good shape.
Okay, good. So, yeah, a month, it was probably long enough, not too much longer you would have wanted to stay as their guest, but.
Well, they treated us pretty good, so. But the only thing, they never got much to eat, just like the rest. To make prisoners, you know. I get a book and there's must be, I don't know if it's right or not. I was going to say 60 prison camps, but I don't know, I can't really prove on it by the paperwork I have.
Okay. And you went through 2 of them?
No, just one.
Just one. And that was, what was the name of the camp?
I didn't think that in my head very well. 12 or 13. I should have had information on it.
Is that right? Was that a Stalag camp?
Yeah, the name of the camp is one of the number I was trying to think of, like 12 or 13.
12 or 13, okay. Okay, got it. And then you were in a camp with all Americans, right?
Yeah.
Did they separate the enlisted men from the officers?
Yeah,
They did.
they did.
Yeah.
And before I got there, the officers, a bomb hit skip there. I think somebody got hurt. That's about all I know.
Okay, excellent. Real good.
At Lindbergh.
Limburg, there we go. Good. Okay. We'll come back to you a little bit, but we're gonna ask Mr. Rich a couple questions about his dad.
All right.
Thanks, Mr. Albert. So, your dad was captured, what date again, Rich?
December 28th, 1944.
That's it. Now, your dad was a captive a little bit longer than Mr. Albert, so from the late December, and he was liberated when?
Late April, 1944, by the British troops.
The British, okay,
45.
there you go, right. So, what camp did your dad end up in?
Finally, I believe it was Stalag 10B. It was in way northern Germany, near Sandbostel.
Got it. So he was in German captivity for almost the span of
4
4
months.
months. Yeah. So that's, although on the calendar doesn't look like a lot of time, but in those conditions, it must have been extremely difficult.
Yep.
Did-
Walked across Germany, and like he was talking about, they put him in rail cars, and you know, they were bombed. So, coldest winter, what, in years. So yeah, he ended up with frostbite.
Hmm.
So,
To his extremities?
yeah, his legs.
Legs.
So,
Now, did your dad's camp was liberated in northern Germany by British troops pushing in from the west? Is that?
yeah, I would assume so. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Now, did your dad talk much about his experiences afterwards? I would guess not.
Not for a long time, I guess. See, he landed at D-Day, Utah Beach.
Oh, okay. Right there on the opening days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
40 minutes after
Hmm.
H hour.
Wow.
So, and he was wounded 2 days later near St. Mary de Lys.
Sure.
So he was out of action for a while, and then he went back.
What is H hour? I don't know what
H.
that is.
Like
H.
D is day,
Okay.
D-Day,
Oh.
H is H hour.
Oh, okay.
It's just
Know that.
the way they, I guess, signify it in military talk, I guess.
Okay.
So it was H hour plus 1 almost.
That's what I could think of, Stalag.
Stalag.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, 13.
Stalag 13. Excellent.
Mhm.
You know, you notice from the numbers, the Germans, of course, for as many American and British and Canadian troops they captured, they had a score of POW camps.
Oh, yeah, I saw a sheet that he had, and they had them all listed, and where they were on a map, and it was just, you know, tons of them.
Yeah.
They took a lot of prisoners.
They did indeed. They did indeed. When your dad began to talk about his experiences, were you able to better understand his journey?
Yeah, well, actually, most of what I know from it, I got from paperwork he had to fill out to get a POW medal. So that's mostly what I know about it. He didn't talk much about it. That's why I brought up the D-Day. There was, when they did the 50th anniversary on TV, they had all that thing where people going back and everything else. And he and my mother were watching it. And she said, all of a sudden, he just started talking about it. And she was stunned. She said, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's kind of weird even now, but
Yeah.
when her told me about it. So, yeah, that's when she found out a lot of the things that went on. So, yeah.
Are your parents still living?
Oh, no. They're both, actually they're buried over in section 26.
Oh.
Both of them,
Wow.
yeah. So, that's partly why I came over. Came over, visited.
That's nice.
Yeah, I come over around the holidays and stuff, you know, with Flowers Town. Yeah, I'm proud of him when he did. So.
Are they
Oh,
both? Are they
absolutely.
both buried over here?
Yeah, same grave, just, you know,
Okay.
the spouse gets to,
Right.
Mhm.
and she didn't know what she wanted done, so we said, hey, it doesn't cost anything, and that was all she said, okay,
Yeah.
fine. So that's where she went.
Good spot, lay both of them together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, we figured it was the best thing.
It's very typical, I think, of your father, and I'm sure maybe even Albert, that these young men come back from war, and the main goal is to get back to the U.S. and get on with your life.
Yep,
And so,
that's what you look at it.
yeah, not really dwelling in the past was in their goal. They just, when you get back, they survive the war, and that's the greatest reward they could have, and they get on with it.
He came back and went back to work, the job he had before, and that was it.
Hmm.
They used to say, you know, they called me, I served, I came back. No big deal.
Yeah. That's-
It's,
I mean, it was, but
Right.
to him, it wasn't.
Right, yeah. And you think with,
it seems that was like more particular to, or more just around World War II. That you went, like I said, you went, did your job, and came back and went in straight to civilian life. Is that how you did? I don't think you hear me.
I don't think he heard you.
When you came back from the war and you're discharged, did you just try to get right back into resuming your life?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Albert, was your old job waiting on you?
No, I didn't have a job.
Okay.
Well, and I did have a job at Curtis Cash, but then I went to, instead of going back to Curtis Cash, I went to NCR 32.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Okay.
Now, Rich, did when you did find out well after the fact,
Yeah,
did your dad? You mentioned a story about turnips.
yeah. Yeah, well, when they were on the rail car, or, yeah, in the box cars, wasn't a great, you know, they locked you in, guys were sick, you know, it just wasn't a real good experience. And, you know, they didn't get much to eat, like Albert said. And one day they opened up the doors and he slid a basket of turnips in, which, I mean, I've never had a turnip. I don't know what they taste like. But it was food. So they ate it. But he said he never ate, never looked at a turnip, never ate another turnip for the rest of his life. So, you know, it was food, but I suppose maybe, I don't know, kind of like somebody throws cabbage in and you eat it, you know. It's food.
Yeah. Yeah. Did your dad ever mention about how much weight he lost over the course of 4 months?
No.
I can imagine it was.
I would imagine he lost. I mean, you don't get a lot to eat, so all that walking across Germany and in the boxcars. And then he did mention, you know, they treated him decent in the prison camp, but at that time, the Germans were losing. They didn't have a lot either,
Right.
so they got, you know, what they had.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a whole lot.
No.
How many, I forgot to ask you, how many years were you in the service? How many years?
3,
3?
but same as I was at NCR.
Okay.
32, 34 months in the service.
Okay, and how many of that were you a prisoner of war?
31 days.
31 days. What?
Brain.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
almost 94, but I don't want to blame it on that, but.
That's a good thing to blame it on.
Any other, what question? You want?
How many years were you in the service? And then how many years were you a POW?
1 year. Back up. 31 days, prisoner of war.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at the shop 32 years. NCR.
Mm-hmm. Carolyn, your uncle was missing in action. Vietnam?
Yes.
Vietnam era. And she, tell us about him, because I've never heard anything about your uncle.
He was a co-pilot, lieutenant junior grade, and he was delivering, they went to Vietnam. He made several trips to deliver, I think, supplies. He was in the Navy MAT squadron, and it was an Air Force plane, but he was Navy, and the crew was all Navy. And on one of the trips, on the way back, they had Air Force people on the plane too. They were going to go on leave, and there was a bomb on the plane, and it exploded.
This occurred over water
Yes, of the water.
as they were coming into Vietnam or
No, on the
leaving?
way out.
Leaving
It was
Vietnam.
about 30 minutes out.
Got it. And what was the date of loss?
June 17th, 1966.
So fairly early on.
So it's been 50 years.
Yes, this
Oh
year.
my, jeez.
This is a C-130.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, 7:30.
About how far off the coast did they estimate?
It was just a few miles. It was actually near an island,
Okay.
too.
And your uncle's on your mother or your father's
My
side?
mother's,
So it's your mother's brother?
yes.
Got it. Now, was the family notified almost immediately of his loss? His
Yes.
missing?
Could you speak up a little bit, Mr. Brown? I don't think he doesn't, I don't know if he can hear you guys.
Okay.
Well,
We're just asking her about her uncle who went missing in Vietnam. Now, is it Carolyn?
Yes.
Yes. Having worked in the casualty field for many years, I know very, very closely the dilemma, the plight of the families of the missing, because when you lose a loved one in the service, in combat, even though it's horrible, there is some closure, because if the body's returned, it's some form of finality. The body's returned, there can be a ceremony, there can be a funeral, there can be an interment, and everything that comes with that. But with the missing, there's nothing. And so, and I hate to pry, can you share with us a little bit about how it impacted your family and not knowing a lot of the details of what happened?
Well, my grandparents, I don't think they really, at least my grandmother, didn't really believe he was dead. Even right before she died, she insisted he was on an island. I don't think my mother really believes he's dead. In the town they lived in,
doesn't live there, that still represents family.
right,
And, you know, the older I got, the more I learned about MIAs, because I'm a Vietnam War kid. I'm a Gold Star daughter, and it was, I always felt so grateful that at least we knew where Daddy was. And my heart just always sank when I hear, you know, on the news they talk about somebody else missing in action, or this person's not accounted for. And that was, I was just grateful to know where Daddy was, because I just no way I can fathom not knowing where your loved one is. That's, now did he have children? Was he? No.
so my mother was the only sibling, so, you know, we were a small family.
So, your uncle's case obviously still technically open because they've never found the lost site.
Yes.
And I know from firsthand knowledge that, as you would expect, the most difficult cases which involve aircraft losses are the ones over water, because we really don't know where exactly the aircraft went in. And so much uncertainty exists with that. Did, when your grandparents passed, your mother then becomes the primary next of kin?
Right.
And so she took on the case to run with?
She doesn't really have much involvement. It's more me, because she's elderly herself now and sick. So she gets the updates from the League of Families, and she tried to keep up to date that way. I went to a few of the meetings, one in DC and one in Columbus. And the one in DC, the casualty officer told me that they actually searched for my uncle's plane. They know where it is. At that time, they didn't have the technology to go deep enough to find it. They said they were going to go back in 2011. I don't know if they ever did or not. So
Yeah, it's, I've had experiences with the search for primarily naval aircraft that went into the water off the coast, and it is, as you'd expect, it is quite difficult because you have to have the right technology to try to understand what's on the ocean floor, and they run a Navy ship back and forth across the surface looking for a metallic signature. And so many variables at play. Working with the Vietnamese, who sometimes are obliging and sometimes are not, to allow all of these searches to continue. But it would be something to hopefully one day think that they could find the wreckage. How many souls were on board the aircraft?
there are 13 missing. I think there were actually 14. One of the other co-pilots they found him. There was actually a boat in the area, and they saw it happen. So they found one body and nothing else. And bits of, I guess they found some belongings and bits of plane maybe, but
Not much more.
no.
No. And it's sad to think that only the families who have endured that nightmare can only really understand the difficulty that the MIA families endure, which is probably far and away extremely difficult, simply for the fact that there's largely often no information whatsoever. And so I'm not surprised that your grandparents continue to hang on to the only thing that they could have to have, even though the hope may be far removed. But in the absence of anything else, what else do you have? And you have to cling to something, and that's a very difficult position to be in, I'm sure. And your family's not alone, because so many of the MIA families are very much in the same position. And that's probably one of the ugliest costs of war are the guys that are not found, because the families, there's nothing else to go on. And in '66, I'm thinking that your grandparents probably got a telegram instead of an actual visit by an officer. Was that?
I think that was the case, yes. And then my grandfather immediately called my mother, and then she told us kids.
How old were you at the time?
I was 9.
You were 9. Wow. So clearly this is something that you remember still. Yeah. Wow. Was your mother, she close to her brother?
Yes, very. They were very close family.
And you think the tragedy that your mother had to feel, knowing that, was it her older or her younger brother?
Younger.
Younger brother.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, and I was actually there when he told them that he was joining the Navy to become a pilot. He told my grandparents, because I stayed with them a lot. And they weren't happy. You know, at that time, airplanes were still, air travel was a big deal. And nobody I knew had been in an airplane. And so they were nervous about that. And they didn't want him to leave either.
What year did he go into the Navy, do you remember?
No, he did go in right after college, I know that.
Okay, so he already had his college degree and then decided to
Yes.
enlist. Okay.
Yeah, he went to OTS and pilot school. And once he was doing this, they were supportive. It was just the initial shock.
doubt. And then, I'm guessing, if you went down in 66, the war really began to flare up in summer of 64, August of 64 with the Tonkin Gulf incident. So I'm sure that they probably understood that there was a good chance he was going to be pulled in. So.
But I don't think they knew that he was making these trips.
He was flying from the Philippines to Vietnam and back?
Okinawa, but he was stationed in California.
Okay. That's a lot of long distance flying. Okay.
He was flying a C-130 that distance?
Yes. So I don't know if they went from California to Japan.
To refuel and then onwards.
Yeah,
And they haven't found anything.
no.
Alex, if I might, for the audience here, for the people watching this, would you give a little more information about what you do and how you know so much about the historical stuff that comes into play here, along with what you do out at the base as far as the forensics stuff goes, please?
Sure. I work for one of 3 DoD forensic laboratories that's specifically devoted to the prisoner of war missing in action mission. The lab at the base was formerly known as the United States Air Force Life Sciences Equipment Laboratory. The other 2 labs within DoD is the anthropological lab in Hawaii that deal with the analysis of bone and teeth. Our sister lab in Dover, Delaware deals with the analysis of DNA obtained from human remains. Our specialty at the base is looking at actual material evidence that is recovered from lost sites that involve MIAs. In other words, we're the forensic guys that look at the artifacts that are pulled out of the ground. And so by looking at the artifacts at a lost site, we can try to understand what happened to the American that was involved. And so I've been involved with this field going back to 1994. And so it is my job and my passion to delve fully into the overall mission. The mission to find, recover, and identify our missing in action, but also to study the war of our prisoners of war, the individuals who were captured in conflict. And to echo both the situation of Rich and of Albert, my own family was affected by World War II, which makes our family a Gold Star family in that my grandfather's nephew, my grandfather was the youngest of 7, and the son of one of his oldest sisters was his nephew, although they were just a few years apart. Well, Reynaldo was captured in the Battle of the Bulge on the 14th of December 1944 with the 106th Infantry Division. The 2 regiments that were surrounded by the Germans were, in essence, surrendered because there was no need in fighting. They knew that they were not going to get away. So the 2 infantry regiments surrendered en masse, which is considered the largest unit surrender in Army history. 2 regiments probably totaling upwards of 3,000 men. Reynaldo was part of that capture. So he goes into the German POW camps in late December of 44. Reynaldo was not a big man. He was 5'4", maybe weighed 110 pounds. And so he didn't have much to give up in terms of his body mass. And so by the time his POW camp is liberated in late April of 44, he had expired due to starvation. And so he was one of the unlucky few of the POWs that did not survive captivity. And so that's a tough thing.
Here's something you did. At your Air Force Museum, you guys got a big boxcar and they shipped it over from France. France had something to do with it, and you guys did too. It's set down there. Us, Jack Perry and I, we got to go down and see it because we remember the XPOW organization. But they painted it all up. It didn't look like an old laboratory.
No,
It's all pretty.
Yes, sir. They got to make it pretty. Yeah, they don't like to leave anything as they find it. Yeah, the box.
So what we had is dilapidated and it had was wired in and things like that, no locks.
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. What's interesting, Rex, is that with 3 individuals we have, well actually 4 if you include my family, you have the full perspective of the prisoner of war and missing in action element of combat, which is often one of the most difficult between prisoners of war that are captured, like Albert and Rich's dad, and survive and come back to U.S. control. They're the survivors. And then you have the family members such as my own family where the POW does not survive. And it took upwards of 6 years for Reynaldo's remains to come back to his father in New Mexico. So if you think, if the agony of not knowing that your son is already dead and having to wait another 6 years to receive his body is a tremendous burden, a tremendous price for any American family to pay. But our pain and suffering is probably nothing compared to the pain and suffering of Carolyn's family, who sadly received nothing because their loved one has not yet been found. So I hope the viewers can watch and really understand the sacrifice and the real measure of freedom that is often paid by families such as ours. And so when they see the American flag, or when they see the MIA flag, the black flag, they understand that freedom is not free. So we hopefully can provide that to any viewer to say this is a nation we must appreciate, and we must appreciate those who have served her faithfully.
Jack Perry and I was a member of the POW organization. I joined in the 80s sometime. I went to Jack Perry, but we had about 80 members at that time. I dwindled down. See, Jack Perry might be able to tell you when about dissolved, because everybody dying off.
Yes, sir.
And they got down to, well, like you could, we always had somebody come to every meeting. Policemen or different ones, or Army people, come to give a talk. You could have been one of them if we knew it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Come and give a talk to this guy.
Yeah, I know that unfortunately your group is shrinking.
Yeah, they dissolved now. All it was is just a structural thing.
I see.
So I dropped out.
Ah, sorry to hear that.
I got so far to drive from Whisper, 30 miles.
Okay. Yeah, it's quite a unique organization to be formed of ex-POWs.
And Ken Catcher, he was born to be a commander.
Okay.
You probably heard of Ken Catcher.
Okay.
He's a commander for quite a few years.
Yeah, my dad was in that. My dad was in that one in Kettering.
Ah, okay.
Well, gentlemen, ma'am, I understand that Rich, did you donate any items to this museum out here, or, from your dad?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Albert, you donated some stuff to this museum out here, didn't you? Don't you have a book out here that you donated to Mark? Was that you?
Yeah, I think his name was Mills.
Okay.
Through the POW organization.
Right.
Donated to the,
And I know Carolyn's.
my name's probably in there.
Yeah, and I was told that you have some items out here that you donated to the museum.
I have things from my service, but
Okay.
my grandparents didn't keep much.
What branch did you serve in?
The Air Force.
You was in the Air Force. From what years?
1983 to 2008.
Okay. Wow, you were what we call a lifer in the Army, huh? What was your rank when you expired time?
Master Sergeant.
You was a Master Sergeant? Okay, so you and Mark were the same rank then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Alex here, he's just a first sergeant, so you can have him snap to attention, right? Well, what I'd like to do from this point is this has been pretty awesome. And I'm gonna, as I said, publish this in several different TV stations, but Carolyn, I'd like to go out and you could show me your property you did here, and Albert, we can talk about this book that you donated to the museum, and then I know Alex has got some stuff too, and we're going to take a short break here, and I have to get a new battery for the camera because it's going dead, and then we'll go out there in the museum.
Good, thanks, Rex.
How you doing, folks? This is Rex, and I'm still out here at the Dayton VA at the Miami Valley Military History Museum. You're looking at a bracelet that was donated by Carolyn Sargent that was made back in the day, and she's going to tell you a little bit about it and what it means, and she has one in her hand that she wears every day. So, Carolyn?
Well, it actually wasn't made long ago. I've never actually seen an original one. These were made, or they were ordered by the VFW Post 657 in Riverside to honor my uncle. And we had a special ceremony, and his picture was hung up in the VFW.
And what's the significance of the bracelet? What's engraved on it? What's the information about it?
His name, Lieutenant Donald E. Sigwarth, in U.S. Navy. The date of loss, South Vietnam over water, OW.
And you wear that bracelet hoping that he'll come home someday.
Yes, and it also has the state that he's from, New Jersey.
So other families that have missing in action members could be seen walking up and down the street wearing this too, in hopes of finding those missing people.
Mostly when these bracelets came out originally, they were meant to go to people that didn't know the missing person, to bring awareness, and they would follow that person until the person was returned or came home.
Okay.
And that was the significance of the bracelets. And you can still buy the bracelets for missing service people.
Okay.
But that was the original significance. So family members didn't actually have them. And
It was used as a remembrance. Don't forget about this individual,
Yes.
and keep asking about him and finding out as a driving force.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I didn't get this till the VFW ordered several with my uncle's name on in his remembrance.
Okay. VFW is a pretty awesome organization. So,
Yes, and the American Legion actually did the same thing.
yeah.
So there were more bracelets with his name on them.
Wow. I'm going to need to look into that project and find me a bracelet. Yeah. Thanks for your time, Carol.
You're welcome.